What's going on, everyone? Let's look at another stock today. So, what stock am I going to look at? Well, first, let me tell you my requirements. Number one, has to be a good dividend paying stock. It has to pay dividend. You can't, I'm not going to add it to my portfolio if it doesn't pay dividend. Number two, has to be a good growth stock. Now, number three, they have to be financially stable company. I don't want to own a company that's not financially stable. So why am I picking a dividend paying stock? It's because I want to own a stock that pays me and not just for the growth. Just so I can get a return on my investments. And let's get into it. So the stock we're going to get into today is AT&T. What's AT&T? They're a cell phone company, and are they worth investing in 2025? Let's look into it. If you don't know what AT&T is, they're a cell phone internet company, and they're a pretty big company. So, according to AI, AT&T is a buy, and I'm gonna go to MSN and look at the charts. So, does AT&T pay a dividend? Yes, they pay a 4.98% dividend, which is a pretty high yield dividend. Now, year to date, there are negative 2.11. Year to date or yearly, they are up 35.83%, which is a really good number of growth. 3 years, they're up 10.92%. And 5 years, they're in negative 23%. So, what do I do in this indication where the 5 year is in a negative and the 1 year is in such high positive? Maybe this is a turning point and it's a good growth opportunity. Now, before I can do that, I had to look at the finance and see why there was a drop. Because the valuation of the company is based on how much money they bring in, and that should reflect on the valuation of the company and stock price. Should. It doesn't always, but that's how I look at it. So finance wise, they're making $143 billion, $181 billion 2019. So they look like they lost market shares, which makes sense why they dropped so bad 5 years. Now that they're on the increase, it makes sense they're having this increase in 2025. Now let's look at the profit margins last few years. So they were in a negative the year before, positive, negative, and now they're in a positive this year of 12.76% of net profit, and gross margins at 59. So the gross margin looks like it stayed in the 50, and their net profit jumped up and down. So it looks like it lost evaluation due to it losing money in the last 5 years, and they're on the uptrend. So will this be a good growth stock? To be honest, I would pay attention to this very closely because they might be on the uptrend. Now, this would be great for yearly traders, day traders, because of the evaluation. Now, let's look what AI Insight, they gave it a 4 out of 6 for valuation. Health is 2 out of 6, performance 2 out of 6, growth is a 0 out of 6, and earning is 2 out of 6. Now, I see why the growth is 0 out of 6 due to the finance. The finance was in the negative and they were doing bad for the last 5 years. So it makes sense why you see this drop in 5 years. And will they ever get back to the original value of the company? Because it was making 181 billion, and then you go back to 2000. Let's see if it lets me go back that far. So it makes sense. It is all the way up here during that time, and now it's dropped because of the finance, because they're not making as much money. So That makes sense. This is why I tell people to pay close attention to the finance of a company because it should reflect in the stock price. And based off the information I got here, should you invest in it? Well, before I want to see if anyone's selling in a company because that does affect if the stock price will go up. And it looks like no one really sells and they're kind of holding on to it, which that's a good sign. Now they are based in Dallas, Texas, which it's a good thing for AT&T. They get good benefits, and I didn't know they were based in Dallas, Texas. So, any bad news about them? Let's look if Emerson found any bad news. Well, we got a bunch of good news to say buy now. So, should you buy this based off the analysts saying a buy? Well, based on the numbers, I'm thinking AT&T is starting to recover. And it would be good to add it to your portfolio if you are on the more riskier end. Because you might be getting a 30% return in the next year or two. So, will I add it to my portfolio? No. This one is too risky for me to add to my portfolio due to the finances not being stable enough for me. I don't want to own a company that's in a negative, positive, negative, and positive. I like to see it in the positive, positive at least for 2 years before I go into investing. Due to the finance, I will not invest in it. Now, if you are a more riskier investor, this will be a great stock to have in your portfolio because I do believe this stock will have a good return in the next year or two. Will it be 30%, 35%? I do not know. I can't predict that. But I at least know it's going to be in the 16, 17 percentile at the minimum if the finance holds up. If the finance holds up and they start taking more market share back, it only makes sense to company value to be higher. And with the insider trading, no one's selling it, it makes sense to buy it. Now, they don't have a lot of growth opportunity unless they get into like TV series or streaming platforms like Xfinity did, but you never know what they're going to do this next year or two. And right now, it looks like it is the lowest you can purchase it. So due to that fact, if you are a more riskier investor and want a high paying dividend stock, this will be a great stock to add to your portfolio. Now, that's based off of risk. This is too risky for me for the finance, but you can get great returns off this stock. Now, if you compare it to T-Mobile and Verizon, it's up to you. If you're looking to diverse your portfolio and add a telecom to your portfolio, and this will be a great one to add because you will get a good return in the next year or two. I just don't know what they're going to do after the year or two, and I don't want to keep selling stocks and buying stocks. I'm trying to find and build my portfolio for passive income. So this stock doesn't look like it'll stay in my portfolio for more than 5 years or even 3 years. So I don't want to add it because I don't want to deal with the tax complication of selling it in a year or two because taxes depends on how long you own a stock also, and I don't want to sell stocks too shortly and pay more in taxes. So that is my reason why I'm not going to buy this one. Now, I do think they're going to be a good growth stock. So, hey, like and subscribe to my video, and that's my opinion on AT&T. Ticker symbol T.